Welcome back. Civilizations from around the world have practiced the art of hand-tapped tattooing for thousands of years, which continues to live on in the Pacific region's indigenous cultures such as Samoa, Borneo, and the Philippines. Let's meet Manong Leng Wilcken, a Filipino-American with over 3 decades of experience as a cultural hand-tapped tattoo practitioner and scholar, who shares his personal journey in becoming an advocate for his ancestral Filipino hand-tapped tattooing, also known as batok.
I am a hand-tapped tattoo practitioner. I have lineage from England, Scandinavia on my father's side, and primarily Ilocano on my mother's side, with some ethnic minorities commonly known as Igorot as well. I became interested in hand-tapped tattooing when I was 19 years old living in Hawaii, and after seeing the beautiful markings of our Polynesian cousins, I wanted to have my own markings but did not want to appropriate something from another culture. And so that began my 30-plus years of research into our cultural practice of tattooing in the Philippines, which is now unfortunately largely extinct, except for a few ethnic groups throughout the Philippines. My mentors are Sua Aliava'a, or sometimes known as Petelo Suluwape, and Sua Kione Nunez of Hawaii. And those were my teachers to help guide me through this practice. I never wanted to tattoo other people, just receive marks for myself. But the community, after realizing that I had all this background knowledge as well as the mentorship of people that are considered masters, the community began asking me for hand-tapped tattooing, and I've done my best to take care of the Filipino-American community with this practice. Hand-tapped tattooing is a little different from the machine. It is a little more intimate, I feel. The materials that we use to construct our tools are all natural materials: wood, bone, horn. These are some of the tattooing tools that I use. They're called various forms of kisi, igahisi. This is one of the other tools that we use, not commonly seen. This is igahisi from up north. It is a wonderful, beautiful tool, very simple looking, but actually quite genius. And this is what we do when we tattoo. The sounds are rhythmic, they're almost drum-like. The recipient receives an experience that is very similar to what our ancestors had hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. One of my friends, Sua Isaiah Toitu'u, who is of Tongan, Hawaiian, and Filipino descent, he says that tatau, or tattooing, is one of the things that shows the Western world that we have not been fully colonized. And so many people come to us for the part of their processing of decolonization from Western ideology and thought. This is a way of reclaiming the body and bringing it back into a cultural lens, focused and establishes who we are, strengthens our sense of cultural self-worth and identity. Prior to receiving marks from me, the recipient has to follow protocols, both spiritual and practical. One thing that we do require of a lot of people is to do their genealogy. If they come from a metro place like Manila, that's a cosmopolitan melting pot. And we want to make sure that we give them the appropriate marks for their ethnic group. Just because the family has been there for a few generations in Manila doesn't necessarily mean that they're Tagalog. They might be Ilocano, they might be Isnog, they might be something else. And so we want to make sure that they do their due diligence, and we do our due diligence with them. The designs that I use are culturally prescribed, if you will. The recipient doesn't really get a choice in what they can have in terms of those designs, because that was already chosen by their ancestors generations upon generations ago. Cultural context, as well as what designs are available to them from their ethnic group, that all comes into play. And unfortunately, our people are still illiterate in these designs. That's where it comes upon my shoulders to be able to be literate in the designs and do what is appropriate for that recipient and their ancestry. A lot of the work that I do is to re-educate our people about this practice again. I have apprentices, written 2 books on the subject, contributed to other books on the subject. I've been in documentaries, I've been on the news, I've lectured at multiple universities and private forums, trying to bring this knowledge to the forefront again. Something that was so important to our ancestors for thousands of years has now been lost to most Filipinos. And so it's a daunting task and a heavy burden for those few practitioners that are left to bear. And I feel the weight of that burden. And so just by people watching this video or picking up a book and reading it, it helps bring that practice that much farther away from the precipice of cultural extinction again. When it comes to taking apprentices and students, I'm very careful about who I select. I don't just take anybody who is interested. They have to have a unique set of attributes to be able to do this work. They have to be craftsmen or craftswomen to be able to manufacture these handmade tools. A lot of people focus on the artistic aspect or the symbolic aspect of these markings, but what we have realized in recent years is that these markings often follow the meridian lines in the body as known by Chinese medicine. So in effect, it becomes like permanent acupuncture affecting a particular organ system. And we've put this to the test, everything from pain management to fertility issues. And the results have been surprisingly good. We have also participated in research studies where they're examining the connection between hand tattooing and an enhanced immune system that comes with tattooing itself, as well as these other aspects that seem to have an interplay with what is understood in Chinese medicine as acupuncture or acupressure. My admonition to my people out there is whatever you are interested in culturally, explore that practice. Because when you search for your ancestors, they find you, and they fill in the gaps. And at its very base, batok, or cultural tattooing from the Philippines, is to accentuate the relationship that a person has with not just the past as an abstract, but with their ancestors specifically. And so as you get to know your ancestors, you get to know this practice. I'm Wilcken, and this is my voice.